This is our second installation of the sensational staff readings. Up first, the audacious Adam Latham. Woo!
Morning, y'all. Thank you for coming. Thanks to the staff. Thank you, Wyatt, the best boss I've ever had. Thank you, Megan, the best colleague I've ever had. I'm gonna miss working with y'all. That being said, that since you're leaving me, I couldn't be more excited with Leah coming on and Gwen. I'm going to read a story. I read the first half of it the other summer, and I thought it'd be fun to read the second half. So what I'm going to do is read the first few pages, summarize the middle, and then we'll pick back up at the end. Thank you, Margot, for the title on this one. The Goddamn Sorcerer of Love. The dog seller hawks mangy curs across from me at the flea market. Misty brings me a cherry slushy like she's a woman who takes care of her man. Don't think I don't notice she makes a big show of it for Mr. Dog Seller. The son of a bitch wears clean overalls. He's bigger than everyone else, muscly, and has a braided goatee. It looks like a shriveled snake biting his chin, I say. Misty says, I think it makes him look like a Viking. I like to soak his goatee in gasoline. I'm thinking fuse. I'm thinking light that sucker and maybe his head explodes. The guy's a real talker. I'm suspicious, as if he's stolen something the rest of us need. We're an economy outside the mainstream. Tables of outdated processed food, goats, chickens, geese, rabbits, poop-splattered eggs, cash only. The people, my people, dark whites, scrunched faces, dusty smokers, cancer-ridden, palmilla hats, guns and ammunition, dying trucks, and flashy new motorcycles, mountain people. And then there's this guy. I'm sure he fights dogs. He has a giant one, white, chained to his table. Half wolf, he says. It's a magnificent animal, like a dog Jason Velasquez would be in another life. Jason Velasquez is the greatest male romance cover model of all time. He beats the shit out of Fabio. If I could hold all the beautiful women that Jason Velasquez held, I would be a happy man. I sell used romance books. Historical, contemporary, Western. Suspense. Even erotic. Misty doesn't read them anymore. She's into reality TV nowadays. She binge watches matchmaking shows like The Bachelorette. She criticizes connections, as in they don't have a connection, like she's an expert on connections. I've taken a deer hunting out of season. I don't even bring my rifle. I just carry novels up my deer stand to get into hickories for peace of mind. I don't enjoy romances anymore, not even the covers. But I take pride in knowing my inventory. I gloss over chit-chat and study passion scenes like they might contain the secret to saving our relationship. I sit on a camo cushion chair 20 feet up a pig nut with romance books stacked around me, and I'm a goddamn sorcerer of love. But lately, it all sounds the same to me. All heavy bosoms and love muscles that move the ground beneath whatever Scottish or ranch people are getting some. My heart isn't in it anymore. I'm hungover and not very talkative. Bored, Misty walks over to the dog seller's booth. Irked, I follow. The guy smiles. He acts like he owns the place even though he's a new vendor. He keeps his eyes focused on me the whole time. Misty cocks her hips and tilts her head. She can't stand being ignored. She runs her finger through her hair. Beau Prince, the guy says, and shakes my hand like it's a hand-breaking competition. Dan, I say. Prince Beau takes me to his car and jerks out a squat speckled dog with droopy tits from the back seat. This here's a blue heeler, he says. She killed 2 coyotes last week. I'm like, right, guy. Whatever you say. How does she kill them? I say, calling him out. Beau doesn't blink. Coyotes hunt in packs. She splits them up and gets them by their throats and rolls them till they're dead. 2 coyotes last week. She's sweet with people, but when she meets a coyote, it's a bad day for coyotes. I don't believe half of what the guy says, but the bitch has a scar on her nose. She stands stiff under his command. She is undeniably a badass. I can't stand coyotes, I say. They run all over my place. $150, Bo says. The healer looks me in the eyes. We want no part of each other. 100, Bo says. Misty kneels beside a puppy cage. You better wash your hands touching those things, I say, and pour back to our booth. What's got under your skin? I start packing up my romance books and Misty's discount healing crystals. Before that, it was incense. She's always looking for something new to sell. She says I don't have vision, but she just hasn't found her niche yet. It takes me a few trips carrying our boxes to the car. I'm flushed and sweaty, but have calmed down. I'm ready to go when Misty walks into the parking lot. She's carrying the blue healer. She smashes the dog to her breasts. Its legs stick straight down funny. The dog has a freaked out look in its eyes. Oh, hell no, I say. Take that bat, now. Like hell I am, she says. She looks hurt. She gets into the front seat and holds the healer to her chest. The dog smells like bad bologna. I roll down my windows and spin gravel out the parking lot. I don't act like trash unless I'm pissed, and then I can't help it. Misty rubs the dog's eyebrows like it's got a headache. I feel migraine coming on myself. Pete needs someone to play with, Misty says as we drive back up the cove to my house. Pete's my boxer mix, a stocky old boy we both love. Misty treats him like a lap dog. She has an Alabama Roll Tide blanket she keeps folded under the coffee table. She calls it the invitation blanket. When she gets out the invitation blanket, it's okay for Pete to climb up on the sofa and lie on her. It's been a long time since Misty has pulled out the quote-unquote invitation blanket for me. There's a Crimson Tide-sized elephant in our relationship. The bigger it gets, the more impossible it becomes to confront. Like if I say, hey, I love you, something straightforward and heartfelt like that. Like if I say, hey, I love you, let's have sex. Something straightforward and heartfelt like that. The elephant will crash down and ruin us. If I close my eyes, I can make myself go crazy with the thought of her breasts brushing my hair, my chest, her hair hanging in my face. In Caresses of the Cauldron, witches in the Middle Ages slept in nests of stolen penises. I hurt so bad, I believe it. All right, so that's the opening. And then, all right, so they bring summarize here. So they bring the blue healer home, and it jumps on Misty's lap without the invitation blanket. This really pisses Dan off, and he throws the dog outside, and it runs away chasing after coyotes. So it's gone. The next day, Misty's really upset about this, and she leaves Dan for Bo Prince. She moves in with him. It's pretty sad. And she and Bo start making Bo's Superior Nerve Tonic to sell at the flea market. It's a turquoise liquid that provides goat-like stamina, it stimulates spirit animal, and sparks inner awakening. So Dan sees them, and he asks an old man at the flea market to go buy him a vial of the nerve tonic. And meanwhile, there's the blue healers leaving dead coyotes in his yard, and he's depressed and fed up with coyote carcasses everywhere. So he starts hunting down the blue healer, and that's where we're going to pick back up. There are tactics selling merchandise at a flea market. Say good morning, maintain friendly eye contact, or stare off uninterested. Let customers check out wares with the promise of no pressure. No hard sales here. Anything besides what I'm throwing out. Desperation, bad nerves. I've forgotten to take a shower again. My hair's greasy. I'm not exactly the poster boy for selling romance. Waking up to the smell of rotten coyotes will do that to you. I'm thinking maybe it's time for a run to the liquor store. Pulling back into my driveway, there's another dead coyote in my yard. Its legs are gnawed, ankles stripped to bone. I'm tempted to drink the turquoise liquid, but I put it in the fridge, slam a pint of whiskey, and crawl in bed. The sun's working its way down over the ridge when I finally get up. My head aches with the slow, dull pounding. The smell of rotten coyotes creeps into my house, through cracks in windows and under doors. It settles in the carpet, in my bed. I'm thinking, enough of this shit. The coyote population has dwindled. The healer is hungry. I open the refrigerator. The vial of turquoise liquid glows on the top shelf. I twist off the cap and drink. It's fire and ice, alcohol for sure, but that's only the base. A chemical aftertaste follows the minty burn. The sun sets over the ridge. I enter the woods, this time without my rifle. I smell the sweet decay of leaves. Moss squishes beneath my boots. A breeze tickles my skin. I walk through shadows. I climb over rocks and launch myself up boulders. I'm moving fast, sure-footed, like I've never been. I climb to a limestone outcrop above the valley. I strip off my boots and jeans and walk out into the point. Clouds wash across the sky. Moonlight flows over the valley. I step to the edge and take a deep breath. I feel my chest suck the valley into my lungs and yip. I empty everything inside me until there's nothing left to empty. I'm feeling the turquoise liquid good now and yip some more. Everything I see, every branch and twig, every stone beneath me from the closest ridge out as far as I can see is mine. I'm panting when I finish, naked. Now the healer knows this is my territory. Coyotes welcome. I've started organizing romance inventory again. Someone asked me once why I sell used books, why I don't sell new ones. For one thing, it's a flea market. But there's more to it. A used romance is special because someone enjoyed it enough to read it. Here's an insider tip. Don't just look at the cover. They'll seduce you. Examine the spine. What you're looking for are vertical creases, wrinkles that run the entire width. This will tell you if someone has read the whole book. If they have, you might just be holding something worth reading yourself. I'm reading a romance on my couch when something scratches at the door. The blue healer on my steps. I knew it wasn't over between us. I let her in. She shakes herself in the living room. Her ribs are showing. She stares at me and tilts her head, hungry. I get the invitation blanket from under the coffee table. She watches me from the corner of her eyes and climbs onto the blanket. She growls and lifts her lip. There's a shred of rancid coyote meat stuck in her teeth. She curls up beside me as if to sleep. I go back to reading my book. It's a hell of a romance and sucks me right in. Druid's Curse, Conquest of the Vikings. Get your hands on a copy if you can. To the horror of the Celtic men, a sorcerer places a curse on Druid maidens, which makes them go wild for surprised but willing Viking marauders. The anti-hero, a young monk, must race upriver to his home village to warn the love of his youth, a beautiful maiden, before it's too late and her purity is forever tarnished. I'm completely absorbed, just at the point where we find out whether or not the anti-hero casts aside his monastic vows to claim the love of his life, when I lunge for the blue healer. When two forces like us meet, sometimes it comes down to who makes the first move. She nips and tries to bite me. Her chest heaves. Her coarse hair runs beneath my fingers. I scratch the baddest bitch in the county's tummy. Her tongue falls out of her mouth and she grins and wags her tail as I pick her up and hold her in my arms. I'm selling romance books again. God, it feels good splashing around the hot sauce, spicing things up. Hope springs in my chest. And what is hope but the first green tendrils of love? The girl selling knives is the best-looking woman at the flea market by a country mile. She's the only one I'd want to see on a romance cover. She wears tight jeans and black t-shirts. I buy her a pint of boiled peanuts. Boiled peanuts beat the shit out of roses. You find me something more sensual than a boiled peanut. splitting open that soft shell, searching for a delicate bean that gushes in your mouth, that salty taste that leaves you thirsty, wanting more. Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all again. Nathaniel Nelson.
Hey, this is never scary until I'm up here. Then it is. Yeah, so I'm going to try and read all new poems this time so people who have been here multiple years don't have to hear me repeat myself again. This one doesn't have a title. A horse walks into a bar, a real hole in the wall, and stands wreathed in cigarette smoke. So all of the men, in their denim and sullen camaraderie, turn on a hinge. Get this horse a drink, one jokes, but that isn't quite the right line. And besides, the horse seems inclined to abstain, shivering broad, veiny haunches with practiced indifference. Nobody laughs, and the silence grows large. It starts to itch at their collars. So finally, one of them ambles up shyly and asks if it needs some assistance. And one other cannier barfly pipes in that the issue here, clearly, is one of displacement. For what is a horse within walls but an exile far from its home, far from its own native language, which is the sound of long grasses on grasses? All of them pause to think about this, sipping Pabst Blue Ribbon as broad tracts of sky open up in their hearts, which whip for a moment through grasses and flowering fields where the horse is not running at present. Each of them sinks just a bit in their chairs. Well, begins one, but trails off at a loss. And the horse, perhaps itself grown tired of silence, turns its long, graceful neck and asks them, with infinite kindness and patience, "Hey, boys, why the long face?" All right, this is a poem called Counterpoint. I've been living in Eugene for the last year, and one of the nicest things about Sewanee is that when it rains, it then stops raining. That doesn't happen in Oregon, as it turns out. Yeah. A kind of careful counterpoint, an oily parking lot, the moon, the spit valve on the saxophone, the velvet in the trumpet case, the wrenching joint, the violet bruise, the flesh's quiet inland lake. Fire, then the drifts of ash are softer than the soil is. Sullen weeks of winter rain, a looming monochrome of sky, the earthworm on the cracked cement intensify the lichen's green. This push and pull are anchoring, our faithful moon that waxes, wanes, and threatens now to disappear, but surely other months will come. After days of waking early, stumbling through the cups of coffee, pulling on a coat against the rain, that driving rain for weeks, fumbling dumbly for the door, and there it is, composed and ready, waiting like a birthday party, balanced, careful counterpoint, the snow. I'm a little bit hesitant about reading this one. Every single year, my mom asks if I'm going to read the poem about her this time. She told me this year, read the one about your mother, but the good mom poem, not the bad mom poem. I don't know if this qualifies as a good mom poem or a bad mom poem, but it is a mom poem. And I will qualify it by saying that my mom is a good mom. Otherwise, this poem would probably end differently. Anyway, this is called Echoes Barely Audible. Hollowed, aching place I cut through sometimes in the evening. Brutalist parking garage, expansive and private and whirled like a nautiloid shell. But there has been no water here, and hardly a trace of the living. Even the cars, with their promise of movement, are still now, stoically poised between concrete columns poured or set, assembled on a spiral seam. I don't like this place, but listen. Barely there, the ventilation sighs its one long exhaled breath from a lung that will never run empty. And underneath, the hard, vibrating concrete slabs themselves are singing like a tuning fork of lead. I don't like this place, but I would stay here just to listen, waiting till the echoes coalesced into the voice I need. Maybe it is your voice, Mother. Yours I'm half expecting here. You who are always so careful and hollowed. You with your cavernous spaces that rang so quiet and only I heard. Hugging me tightly, your arms were still empty. I the long exhale and passing right through. Could you ever hear them, Mother? Those echoes, my silence, my answer to you. Here the walls are brutal, tall and hefty. I grow small, not still. What I'm missing are your arms holding the emptiness we couldn't fill. Sorry, Mom, I hope that suffices. All right, I think I'm going to read 3 more. This is a poem called White Winter Moon. I guess the only situating info you need, this is a direct address to someone who is having a hard time on New Year's, and yeah. Hard winter night before New Year's, holding us both like a tentative breath, and you called me saying your mother had apples, that they were the only good thing in that house. And when I said, well then, at least you have apples, it made you so angry. It seemed like a joke. Maybe I was wrong. I could have tried to explain what I meant. Could have said, I know what you're thinking, and don't. Could have tried to tell you, even if it meant going back, stretching myself out again on that carpet, hard knot I'd tied of myself coming loose. Sunbather loose, the neurons unlacing, 3 dozen pills in my stomach dissolving. But what idiom would serve to tell you what the earwig said? Earwig on the carpet, earwig inches from my face. I'd have stepped on her unthinking any other day. Crystalline body, her legs were like amber. I thought to myself that she must be a mother, or that she was party to some grand unveiling. I was so certain. She didn't say why. Then, of course, the after choked and spit me like a bone. How far do I need to trace this? Just how far to make it clear? Washing up in some McDonald's parking lot a few months later, nothing left to think about, and overhead, the winter moon. January moon that spun serenely while I missed her, not yet knowing how I missed her, counting the stains on the hospital wall. Cold, indifferent moon, party to no grand design, save for maybe those she started in me as I watched. Listen now, please. I swear I'm not joking, and you'll have to trust me. I can't go so far. But this is our sure dispensation. It falls on us, whether we like it or not. Earwig on the carpet, white winter moon. Maybe I should have just said what I needed, plain and simple, which was this: to think of you waking that morning on New Year's, climbing the stairs in the thin winter light, and there, piled high on the table for breakfast, those apples lay waiting, as if by design. All right, there are a lot of moms in this poem, actually. I'm making up for the last 3 years. This is called Linger. This is what happens when I read a lot of Donald Justice and then write half of a poem in a dream and then put it in terzerima, but sloppily. Anyway. Playing in the garden, falling, weaving flowers through her hair, She shuts her eyes and dances, calling, "Mommy, Daddy, over here." Neither one comes. Her song is only a method of sorting the hours, cutting one hot, all too long afternoon into phrases that linger above her and hang. Wreath of her music that follows and finds her unsought for in each later year. After dropping off her daughter, skimming the suburbs alone in her car, it catches her, rushing lukewarm from the dash at a steering wheel now diademed with tears. Phone poles stern as hours cast their shadows on the narrow street, so everything she's passed is broken up like lines of melody, but each line circles back the same. "Mommy, here, come get me." All right, this is the last one. It's called Axis. Lying on my back, I spread the heavens on their side. Watch a jet plane glide in perfect parallel with me. Needle bright, it sews a seam, trails a steady thread of cloud, parts the sky along my body's axis. Here, where sternum sunders lung from lung and names them left and right, like yes and no, like either or, and holds the heart between. I can see the vapor trail itself is fractured, twinned, razored down the center by a hairline crack of blue. But if I stay here long enough, the trail of cloud will dissipate. Stars will needle through and flash their and. Light that runs in all directions fills this whole blue summer sky, looses me and spreads me on the cooling summer air that flows down crossing streets all heaven strewn with flowers. New blooms know their axes must be multiple and radial, branching from a steady seam, sky blue hearts that spend themselves in spokes. Thank you.